I've been praying about this day for a long time, and I had a lot of things in my heart for a long, long time. And one thing I was doing some studying on just people and how people respond and how people react and why people do what people do. And one thing I've learned, and it makes so much sense, is that there is not one person in this world that fails, that loses. Did you know that every single time you do something, even if you don't get the quote-unquote desired results, you still won. You still are a success. No matter what. Even, unless it's like you're pulling out of here and somebody clips the back end of your car, that's not a success. I'm talking about your emotions, your relationships, and stuff like that. I'm not talking about things you can't control. I'm talking about things that you can control, how you see the world, how you look at the world, how things around you happen. For example, if you've ever been stuck in the same situation for the last 20 years, no matter what you do, it just ends up right here. No matter what happens, I'm always ends up here. Or you get in those same relationships that just end up turning toxic or they turn up awesome. You could have one conversation with your husband or wife, and it ends up the exact same way every single time for 25 years. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody ever have those conversations? Still having those conversations? The thing is we always win. Why? Because out of the abundance of your heart, the mouth speaks. Because what happens in your heart is what you do. It doesn't matter what you think you want to do. You're always going to default back to what your heart says. You're always going to default back to where your default is. What do you think about the most? For example, you can say, let's go for weight loss. We've all been there at some point in time where I want to be thinner. I want to be fit. And then, you go to bed. I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to bust out 10 push-ups and 25 sit-ups, and that's where I'm going to start. Well, 5 o'clock rolls around, and the alarm goes off, and then what happens? You hit the snooze, and And then 10 years later, you're not getting any skinnier, but you're eating better sometimes because that pizza looks really... It's only once a month I have pizza. But you want something, but what are you doing? You want something more, right? The intentions of your heart are greater than your intentions of your head. I want to be more fit, but yet 5 o'clock, I just want to get up and I want to take my shower and I want to go to work. I don't want to sit there and burn out some calories. That sounds terrible at 5 o'clock. Now, at 9 o'clock at night, that sounds amazing for 5 o'clock in the morning. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, when you show up, it is not very much fun. You're like, no. This is time for Daddy to be sleeping. This is Daddy's sleep time. Of course, then you got, for me, I'm always staying up late talking to my Amy, and we're having our conversations. And next thing you know, it's midnight, so 5 o'clock comes really quick. I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. And that whole put off to tomorrow what you can do today thing, that procrastination deal. But no matter what, guys, you're getting what you want. You are a success in everything that you do. Why? Because the intentions of your heart. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that coming through okay? So, you can point at different places. I'll use my ex-relationship. I'm an expert in my life, so you get a lot of my stories just because that's just how it goes. And I'll tell you a few other people's, but whenever you listen to me, it's mostly just my stories and my recollections and how I've worked through stuff. But in my first relationship, my first real relationship, my gosh, we would have these conversations, these issues that pop up, and we would try to talk about it, and for some reason, there was a disconnect that always happened. Completely, and I would always blame it on her. Made sense. It was her fault because I'm perfect, and I'm really good at what I do. I'm a great communicator, and I say things the exact same way that she would respond appropriately to, but she just never did because she was selfish. Right? You guys have those conversations with yourself? That's a true statement right there, right? And then all of a sudden, now I'm in a new relationship. And I'm in a new relationship, and it's going great. Why? Because she's not selfish. She's amazing. No. The difference is whenever we have these conversations, it blew my mind. I had this one conversation with Amy that I had with my ex-wife, and Amy responded the exact same way. I'm like, because that whole response that my ex would give me, that was always her fault. But now my perfect Amy is responding the exact same way. I'm like, maybe it's me. Maybe there's something there. Maybe something's going on. So I started digging into it, and that's really where I really started to learn that I'm getting what I want. Because I'm going at things in a direction that always results in this ending. You jump on this road, it has to end one place. No matter what you do, the road will always end one place, either all the way down southern Colorado, or it's going to end right here at I-25. We call it Hampton by the time you get there, but that's where you're going to end, right down there in Arvada, or Aurora, I mean. And that's the only place, unless you veer off that road and go a different direction, you will always end in these different directions. It's okay. So it's Hamden and then Havana, whatever. I know. It's okay. But the road still goes. It's still Aurora. Anyway, but does that make sense to you guys? We always get what we want. And so this day in life, how many of you guys think this day in life is pretty calm, cool, and collective? I mean, you look anywhere on the news, it feels so crazy. You guys feeling, I mean, who doesn't watch the news? Who doesn't know what's going on in the world? So you have to be watching some news. You're hearing something. If you know about the riots, you know you've been watching news. I wouldn't know about the riots if I stuck my head in a bucket, and there's no way I would know. But I'll tell you what, it's so crazy. I mean, yeah, we can immerse ourselves in this political thing of just stupidity and watch these riots and get on one side or get on the other side. And I mean, you know, I was talking to somebody earlier today. They just want to get a hay. What do you call it, Art? What do you call those hay things? Yeah, a hay sweeper. Yeah, you want to get a hay sweeper and just go down to those riots and just like sweep them all up inside the hay sweeper and then take them somewhere else and dump them off. And did you? And just like, oh my gosh, get them out, clean those streets, you know, and just get them all up in there. But I mean, you look at the world today, and it's just like, holy smokes, it blows your mind at how people respond to different things. It's like, I'm not a mask. I don't believe in masks. I don't believe that masks actually save lives. I mean, the data out there doesn't work. I talked to a lot of nurses and doctors, and this one kid that's in the health department, and he goes, honestly, there is not enough data to actually show it, but it's better safe than sorry, and we've got to do something. And so this is what they do. And I just don't believe it, but yet a lot of people do believe it, and they get all frustrated at me whenever I don't believe it. And so now it becomes a new religion to them of this COVID religion, and masks are the way to save lives. And I'm like, I just don't believe that way. But does that make me right, or does it make me wrong? Do we know? I mean, if there was and then I told them, I said, listen, protect yourself. If, you know, I was talking to a lady yesterday, she does hair cutting, and she goes, I hate being a haircutter these days because every time somebody walks in without a mask, I have to tell them to put a mask on. Now I'm in an argument with them, right? And so when I first got my mask, or my haircut, my mask, when I first got my haircut for the first time since this whole March COVID madness thing happened, it was in June, and I walked into the Great Clips, and the lady asked me some questions, and she's like, do you have a mask? I'm like, I do. And I just stood there and looked at her. And she's like, well, can you put it on? Oh, absolutely, I can put it on, for sure. You got to be more specific in what you want me to do with this mask. So I put the mask on, and I walk over and sit down in the chair, and she leans over and whispers in my ear and says, thank you so much for not giving me a hard time on wearing the mask. Because I'm just doing what I'm told. This is how I make my money. I'm like, I get you. No, that's why I didn't fight you. Because if you were the person of corporate that made it, we might have to have a conversation. Like I'm going to sway their mind because I'm some good talker and I can convince anybody. But that's what I told her. But the thing is that's her job, is to have the mask on. So my belief system doesn't matter at that point. It's what she has to do. If I want to get my hair cut, and if that means that much to me, then I'm going to put a mask on, walk in there, abide by their rules. And of course, they do ask you, have you been around a person with COVID? And I'm like, I don't know. People don't wear signs that say I've got COVID. You know, I have no clue. And she's like, oh, well, do you have a fever? No, I don't. Well, then you're fine. I said, I know. Let's go. How are you supposed to answer that question? Have you been around? Honestly, I have no idea. I just went to Safeway, and I have no clue who's got it in Safeway. If it's, I don't know. Don't get me on COVID. But anyway, you go through all this stuff. You look at the politics, and you look at all these different things, and you hear these stories about what was he, a 38-year-old vet that ended up committing suicide. You guys hear about this story? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember where it's at. Where was that at? Omaha, yeah. And he had a bar, and the riders came in, and they were breaking stuff up. So his 70-something-year-old dad came outside, and he's like, "Hey, guys, stop!" And he pushed one of the rioters, and then they hit him, knocked him to the ground. So he comes out. He's a multiple tour Marine in Iraq, in Afghanistan. He comes back. He's a small business owner, just has a bar. Rents this building, has a bar. Just trying to make a living. Well, he comes back out, and he tells these guys, "Hey, listen, what are you doing? Don't push my dad. Just back off. Just go away." And they start coming at him. And so he starts backing up, shows the firearm in his waistband. He goes, "Back up. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't." Well, they come at him. They attack him, get him to the ground. He pulls the firearm out, a couple warning shots into the air. Those two scatter. As he's getting up off the ground, another guy comes in behind him, puts him in a chokehold. And for 18 seconds, he's sitting there gasping for air through the whole chokehold. "Please stop, please stop, please stop." For 18 seconds, this guy won't get off of him, choking him out, switches the gun from his right hand to his left hand, puts it over his shoulder, and kills the guy. The DA lets him off. Self-defense. Sounds like a perfect case of self-defense. Well, the coalition for the rioters, they decided to go to the courthouse, and they filed a different petition, and the jury found him guilty for terroristic threats because he was backing up saying, please don't, while brandishing a firearm. He was found guilty for terroristic threats. The property owner evicted him from his bar. He's going to jail now, and his landlord where he lives kicked him out as well because they don't want this deal. 2 weeks ago, he shot himself in the head. That stuff makes me so mad. That stuff makes me mad. And it puts this thing in my head to where anybody that believes in BLM, anybody that believes in this riot stuff and says, okay, I want to choke you out. I really do. It just, that's where my head goes. That's my headspace. And it just really, really frustrates me. And because it's like, are you kidding me? This guy did absolutely nothing but the right thing. What's he supposed to do? Wait and hope to God once he chokes me out and I pass out that he's not going to keep going and make sure my heart stops? Or make sure that the oxygen stops going to my brain and I die? No, that's not how that works. But he ended up in a bad situation, and he ended up making a possible temporary situation permanent, right? But it just makes me so mad. And then I start thinking, because that's where we got to end up going, to start getting rid of your stinking thinking and start thinking about, okay, what's the truth? And really, if you guys think about it, if you look at all the Facebook posts, look at all the people that are doing this stuff, for the majority of it, for the majority of people, they're regular, everyday people. I don't care if they got a L attached to the name or a C attached to the name or an R or a D. It doesn't matter. The average person that believes the way they believe that way for some reason, right? Now, are the rioters really believing what they believe, or are they just out there wanting, it's a free ticket to create chaos? I think there's some of those. Other people actually believe that this is going to make a difference? Probably not. If you're a rioter, you're probably not thinking it's going to make a difference other than you just get to do it. But how do I know? I'm just some dude that gets to hear the noise whenever it comes across the news feeds, right? I only know what they tell me. I only know what they show me. I only know because I've never even been to Omaha, so I have no idea what's going on out there other than what they tell me. But here's what I do know, is the average person, the white-collar, blue-collar person, believes what they believe for a doggone reason. I'm not sure what that reason is, but that's their reason, right? Like I have a good friend of mine. He is a left-swinging individual, and he he loves all the government programs and everything else, and I'm like Mr. Non-government programs and everything else. But here's what we did. I had a conversation with him. He sits down and he goes, Josh, I don't think I can actually have a conversation with you because you believe completely different than I do. I said, how do you believe? And so he starts throwing his stuff out. I said, let me stop you for a second. Where do you want to? What's your point behind what you believe? He's like, well, I want to help people. So okay, so do I. That's it. He wants to help people, but he wants to help people through these different government programs. I want to help people by teaching somebody how to do something in their own way, right? But our intention, our ending goal is the same. So what makes him so different? Why are we getting angry at somebody when really, if you look at it, you break it all the way down to the bottom of the foundation of what people believe is what? They want to help people or save the environment for some reason or save the wells. My sister-in-law, she goes and she's a save the well, hug a tree person in California, up in Monterey. She legitimately is. But she gets on the boat and goes out there and saves wells. She goes and pulls the nets off the dolphin's nose. She goes and cleans the trash out of the ocean. That's what she does. And so I respect the heck out of her. Now, we can't talk about politics. No. I would love to, but she gets all mad. And and I'm like, just calm down. We're just talking Trump. And she gets all cranky. She's like, don't say Trump. I'm like, okay. So if I want to take her off, that's how I do it. But anyway, it's but she does it. But really, what's the intention? What's the foundation of everything? It's they want to help people, or she wants to save the sea life. That's her childhood dream, is to save the whales, save the dolphins. She doesn't really care much about the trees, but for sure, the ocean life. The marine life is what she loves, and that's what she lives. She gets on a boat every single weekend and goes out there and finds these things and saves them. That's what she does. I'm like, that's awesome, absolutely awesome. She's not just saying it, she's doing it. I mean, even my wife today in Colorado, she cuts the little plastic Pepsi holder things. She cuts them up. I'm like, sweetheart, these are not going to the ocean. Well, they're not. I know exactly where they go. We drop it off. I have a trash company, and I drop it off. I know where it goes. Believe me. That's not my department. She does it. I'm like, okay, baby, you do what you do, and I'll follow along. So I cut them. You see me over there, like, what are you doing, tree hugger? I'm like, cutting up plastic. It's like, whatever. But, but she does it because she believes what her sister said is true, and she sees this stuff. And so my wife does this stuff just more or less because she's not a marine life enthusiast like her sister is, like Victoria is. She is a person that respects life, respects the animals, and respects her sister's viewpoints on it. So that's why she does it. She's been doing it for years. Now it's just habit, right? But I'll tell you what. You go through all these things. You look at everything. Look at the average person. Think about that guy that sent that message over last week on Facebook that says he wants to sue us because we have a quote-unquote political sign out front. I'm completely fully prepared. What's his intention? Do we know what his intention is? Do we know? I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Okay, I looked this up last night because this is really interesting. Do you guys know what the population in the world is today? 7.8 billion people as of sometime in 2020, right? What about in Colorado? You guys know how many people? Let's go to the U.S. Go to the U.S. first. So 328.2 million, right? That's how many people are in the U.S. of A. So let's just go a little more local to home and say how many people are in my good old state of Colorado. That's 5.759 million people. You know what that means? That 5.759 million people means? You know what that means? That means there's 5.759 million heart issues if everybody only has one in this state. Think about that. If they only have one, that's only 5.759 heart issues in this little state of Colorado. Could you imagine having God's job? Right? And you think that one Facebook post is going to change somebody's mind. We think that standing up and confronting someone is going to change somebody's mind. Why do people confront over politics? What is the issue? 5.759 million heart issues in one state. We can break that down to even up in here. There's like 80,000 people just in the Conifer Evergreen Bailey area. How many heart issues is that? If it's just one, it's 80,000 heart issues. We can look at these different things. We can look at these different people, the way that they say things. We can get as frustrated as we want with them because they're not in good headspace. They don't know logic. Or is it me that doesn't know logic? Maybe they do know something. Maybe they don't. My point is this. If we are going to look at somebody and say, you're wrong, do you know that for sure? And number one, are you helping them? Are you really helping them? I'm going to play you guys a song that's going to kind of put an exclamation point to what I'm trying to get to. If you really look at this, if you really look at the people, just look at the people and say, that person's got a heart issue. That person had what kind of life that put him in this place? How did they get here? How do we know? How do you know that Michaela's dad, just because he sucked at what he did and hurt his daughter on her wedding day, doesn't make him wrong, just makes him with no bedside manner and doesn't know how to say goodbye? He already expressed that he doesn't want to be there because he's scared. He's already told him. You look at the different stories in people's lives. Do you really know? You get hurt by somebody for what reason? You assume or presume or judge their intentions. But we know this, that only God knows the true intention of a man's heart. Right? A lot of times I even know the true intention of my heart. Why do I do what we do? Why do you have these knee-jerk reactions whenever somebody comes against you? Who in here, whenever somebody confronts you, like legitly, especially in person, just like they taught you in school, is to say thank you to the bully? You may do this, or you guys step up. Most people step up. Why? Why don't we step? See, I don't step up. I step back and put my mask on, and it scares me. Right? Not really. No, I try to talk them down because I don't want to fight. I don't like to fight. I know if they hit me, it's going to hurt. So why fight? If there's going to be a word, that's fine, but don't hit me. And if I get in a fight, I'm getting to the point where I wake up in the morning after fighting yesterday, I can't get out of bed. And I'm rolling around the carpet trying to find my socks, and get them on. It just hurts too doggone bad. But you think about your knee-jerk reactions to negative situations. Think about the situation that, put yourself there where you have your sister or your niece or your cousin and you watch her cry on her wedding day when she's supposed to have a father-daughter dance and dad's not there. And where does your head go? Screw dad. What a beep, 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 beep piece of he is. Right? That's where your head goes. We don't go to, I wonder why. Wonder where his heart is, where his head is at that point. All I know is that this person hurt my friend, hurt my family, and we're going to rally around and we're going to verbally abuse this person that's not there anymore to build her up some way, somehow. We're going to talk about the whole situation the entire rest of the night. After they go off to the honeymoon suite, we're still going to talk about it without actually trying to figure out the true reason or to really try to figure it out. Or really, the most important thing, it's not even about the dad at this point. It's about her and try to get her into a good headspace. Try to make sure that this doesn't become a festering heart issue. It's already going to be a heart issue because it was there previously, but it doesn't have to add or compile onto it. Where do we go in these situations? Why do we automatically just knee-jerk back over to here? Because I'm not sure if we truly know the intentions of our heart. Your own heart issues, you don't care if you think it's a good reason, not a good reason. If you're not building people up, you're tearing them down. If you're not standing there saying that, and I'll tell you what, it's hard. I'm watching this girl that I've helped be a part of her life since she was 10 years old. For 15 years. watching her out there, just bawl her eyes out on the dance floor. And it broke my heart. I want to drive to Dad's house, and my head says I'm going to whoop his butt, but I told you what happens if I do that. And he's like in his 70s, so that wouldn't be a fair fight. So then my head automatically went to, okay, let's work on Michaela. Let's get Michaela figured out. Let's work her out. And then I go outside where she's at, and her family just surrounded her completely and just trying to get her head back in a good headspace and telling her, oh, forget him. I'm like, dude, don't say that. Just get her built up. Let's go, right? And then she's going to work it out. By the time she got to the end of it all, she had a lot of things worked out in her head. The anger was gone. But she worked herself in a good headspace. And then she now, after everything's gone and everybody's went home and it's quiet and just her and Greg, they get to deal with it at some point. Maybe they'll deal with it in Jamaica. And that's a good spot to leave it. Just leave it in Jamaica, there you go. But I tell you what, you look at this stuff, you look at the world around you, just pay attention to it. And then you ask yourself, what is their intentions? Why am I getting angry over something that I don't know? I'm judging people without even knowing, just because they're responding. Well, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, of the body acts, so this must be their heart. Nah, it's just their belief system. But does it make him right or does it him make him wrong? I mean, how much more right are you, or how more righteous are you that you can sit there and judge somebody for saying something, or come out here and stealing our signs and then putting Biden on it? Who am I to say, I mean, yeah, they're wrong for trespassing and stealing, but they believe that much about their things. I guarantee you, though, you go and talk to people about why they're voting for Biden, I guarantee it's going to come down to one foundational issue that we can probably almost all agree to. What's that? Exactly. But they love people. They care about people. Every single liberal or Democrat I've ever had a chance to talk to, they all care about people. They just have a different way of solving the problem. I care about people. See, this friend of mine that was a liberal that doesn't think that he can talk to me, we figured out something. He wants to be a doctor. And his biggest goal at that point was to be Doctors Without Borders. I'm like, dude, you just want to help people? You kidding me? That is beautiful. To help people is what I do. Right? And so maybe one day I'll see you out there on the mission field in Kenya with Doctors Without Borders, and I'll be calling you up and say, hey, we can reconnect. Because really his intention was to help people with their problems. And my intention is to help people with their problems. And it's just about coming up with a way that works, not for the collective, but for the individual. Because it always comes down to one person. There's a reason Jesus didn't die on the cross, raise from the dead, and come to communities. Accept me into your community. He said, no. This is an individual thing. Because it's always about the individual. You start looking at the collective, then you're looking at it wrong. Because God's about the individual, because an individual becomes the collective, not the other way around. I'll tell you what, if we look at people through God's eyes, to learn their intentions, not to fix them, but to learn their intentions. We're family. We're all created in his image, right? I don't care if they believe in God or not. It doesn't matter. How does God see them? That's not our place to judge. I don't care if they're gay or Democrat, if they're Republican or conservative. I don't care. How does God see them? What blows my mind is God loves those people that blew up the Twin Towers the same way he loves me. That messes with my head because they hurt so many people. How does God see them? Because that's my only department. How does God see me? Do you know how God even sees you? You can't see other people unless you figure out how God sees you. Work yourself through that first, and then start looking at other people. But if you want to say something, just ask God, how do you see them? How they're going to receive something from you through me. Otherwise, shut up. The only person that Jesus beat up was the people that were hurting people. Because they're hurting people in his church. So that's where my head goes, is I want to go beat up the governors and senators and the community leaders and stuff like that. That's letting this kind of BS happen. But the average person, people that we fight on the streets, the people that are out there in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they're beating each other up and they're going after regular individuals. This isn't even the people that started it. If you look at the history of the world, not just America, look at the history of the world, the only problems came from the people that had the money, the elite people. Not the regular people. They were trained in a specific way to think specific things, but I guarantee you, every single baby that hits the ground doesn't know anything. They're trained to go a direction. Every single person that God has created is started with a blank slate. And the way that they think, the way that they see, the way that they believe is going to be changed by their education. So educating with love. Educate through God's eyes, because if you can't change 30, 40, 20 years of somebody's education, you can't do it. But if they have a heart for people, you can help them see different directions through that avenue. And if you look at them through God's eyes, take a different direction. Look at them through God's eyes. Pray for the leaders. Pray that they get to see God. Because I'll tell you what, if you're not praying for the leaders for them to get to see God, you're taking away their freedom. I don't want them to. I want them to burn in hell. Josh does. God doesn't. I want those people that hurt that many people to just absolutely get what they deserve. But God gives the freedom to choose, which means that you confess with your heart. Believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that he is Lord and you will be saved. I don't care what happened before that. His blood stained that cross, covered all of our sins. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. But Josh says, go away. God says, come here. That's why it's so important to see looking through God's eyes. It's so important. Because he says, come here. He is love. The greatest power in this world. That engulfs relationships. You're blinded by your tears. We don't know people's stories. We don't know why they do what they do. But it might be worth a conversation. It might be worth a, God, show me how to treat this person. Show me how to see how you see them. And maybe it'll make a difference, because you don't know what that person is going to make a difference to from that point out. You know what I'm saying? Guys, it's so important. So important to just stop for a second. Through the chaos and say, God, help me see. Help me be successful in a positive way in everything that I do. Help me be a winner in a positive way in my own life and everything that I do. Everyone on Facebook, thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to keep going on church. Next Sunday, I'll see you here. Come on down. We're open every Sunday.